students at home. I think we're going to start from where we stopped last week. But before I do that, I would like to go back to what we treated last week, which was basic principles of government. Then under the basic principles of government, we defined rule of law, and then we defined fundamental human rights, and then we also saw the basic interpretations of the rule of law, and then we also discussed the categories of fundamental human rights. Then we saw how fundamental human rights can be safeguarded, and then limitations of what? Fundamental human rights. So we said that the theory of rule of law was propounded by a man called A.V. Dicey. Now, we said A stands for Albert, and then V stands for Vane. Then this theory was propounded in the year 1885. That was what we said. And we said that rule of law can be defined as the supremacy of the law over everybody in the society. I think that was what we said. And then we mentioned the basic interpretations of the rule of law as one, equality before the law. Should I write that? One, basic interpretations. Equality before the law. Supremacy of the law. And then the third one is personal liberty. So these are the basic interpretations of the rule of law. One is equality before the law, two, supremacy of the law, and then three, personal liberty. Then we also discussed about the fundamental human rights. And then I said that fundamental human rights are those rights that a citizen of a country is expected to enjoy without any restriction or without any hindrance. And then we also mentioned the categories of fundamental human rights. One, social rights. Two, economic rights. And then three, political rights. Now, under social rights, we said these rights are those rights like right to life, education, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, thought, hearing, and so on and so forth. Then under political rights, we said these are rights to vote and to be voted for, rights to join any political party of your choice, rights to join any political discussion. And then under economic rights, we said these are rights to be employed, and the rights for you to employ someone. Then the right to choose any trade or profession of your choice. Then we mentioned how the fundamental human rights can be safeguarded. We said one, independent judiciary. Now when a judge is totally independent of the government in power, that judge or lawyer tends to protect your rights. Then we also mentioned the Constitution. Now we said that fundamental human rights is found in Chapter 4 of the 1999 Constitution. This is for what's easy reference. Now the Constitution also is another way of safeguarding your fundamental human rights, because it is written down in Chapter 4, so it is easily referred to when any problem occurs. Then we also talked about democracy. Now political power in democracy resides with what? The people. Then we talked about education. When you're educated, you know your rights and you stand on your right. Now when somebody tramples on your rights, you can sue that person to court. Then we talked about limitation to human rights, hindrances towards human Right. We said emergency situations. For instance, in Nigeria, emergency situation 1, or period rather. Then 2, dictatorship. 3, we have control of the press. Now these are what? Limitations or hindrances to what? To your rights. Now this emergency period can include curfew. You know what curfew means? Restriction of movement. Now when you don't have the freedom to move from any time of your choice to the time you really want to go back to your house, it means that your freedom of what? Movement has been what? Restricted. Then we have dictatorship. I said that a dictator is somebody that dictates. He only tells you what to do, and then you listen to him. Whether that thing is good, is in your favor or not, you have to do it. Then we talked about the control of the press. Now, the press helps us to know what is happening in a country. Now, if the press is totally under the control of a bad government, you find out that some necessary information that we ought to get through the media will be what? Will be seized. Now, this was what we discussed last week. So today, we are going to discuss a very important topic. A very important topic, which is separation of power. Separation of power. Now, separation of power is a theory propounded by somebody again. His name is Baron de Montesquieu. And then some books we just say Montesquieu. But his full name is what? Baron de Montesquieu. Let me write it on the board. That's the person that propounded this theory. Now, he propounded this theory in the year 1748 in his book titled The Spirit of Law. So remember what we said? We said that this theory, the theory of separation of power, was propounded by a man called Baron de Montesquieu in the year 1748 in his book titled The Spirit of Law. Now, what is separation of power? Now, separation of power is the division of power separation of power among the tiers of government. Now, last week I was able to give you the difference between levels and tiers. I told you that tiers are not the same. Tiers and levels are the same. And then organs and arms are the same. Now, if you're defining separation of power, and you say that this is the division of power among the levels of government, you failed. Because we're not talking about the levels of government. When you're thinking about the levels of government, you're talking about the federal, the state, and the local government. But when you're talking about the organs of government, you're talking about the executive, legislature, and what? Judiciary. Now, these organs have their what? Their own functions. And then we said separation of power again is the division of power among the organs or arms of government. Now, the legislature is known with the function of what? Making laws. So, for that reason, under this theory, the legislature should be consigned only with what? With making laws. And then as an executive member, you are known with the function of what? Implementing the law, or what? Enforcing the law. Therefore, your function or your duty should be what? Implementing or what? Enforcing the law. Then the organs and arms of government. I said that tiers and levels are the same, while organs and arms are the same. So when you're defining separation of power, you can't say that this is where there is political division of power among the levels of government, but rather you say separation of power or division of power among the organs or arms of what? Government. And then I also said here that if you're talking about the organs, you're talking about the executive, legislature, and judiciary. Now, those three arms of government have their own separate functions. Now, in this theory, it is expected that an executive should focus more on his own function, which is what? Enforcing and implementing the law. Then a legislature makes the law, and then a judiciary or a judicial member interprets the law. So I'm going to write the definition of separation of power on the board for easy reference. The definition of separation of power on the board. We said the theory of the separation of power was propounded by Baron de Montesquieu in the year 1748 in his book titled The Spirit of Law. Now we said separation of power can be defined as the division or separation of powers among the three organs. I did not say level, but I said what? Organs or arms of what? Government. And then these organs of government, the executive, legislature, and judiciary should do what? Should get involved mainly in their own department. Now, a judiciary is not expected to go over to the executive house and maybe join them in what? Enforcing or implementing the law. Now, under this separation of power, we're going to see something that is similar to it, which is checks and balances. Checks and what? Balances. Now, checks and balances enhances what? The principle of the separation of power. They're almost the same. But here, under checks and balances, this theory states that each of the organs of government should serve as a check over one another to avoid the excessive or the excess use of power to the detriment of the citizens and the state. Now, I often tell you that power intoxicates. Now, when somebody is given total power to take charge of everything or something without being checkmated, you find that person will do what? Will use that power excessively. Even you as an individual, for instance, as a class monitor, you know you're there as a class monitor, and then a teacher doesn't checkmate your activity, you find that you use your power what? Excessively. You abuse that power given to you at the detriment of what? The other classmates. So that's what we're trying to say here, that checks and balances say that the organs of government should checkmate the activities of each of the organs to avoid the excessive what? Use of power to the detriment of the citizens or the state at large. Now, still under these checks and balances, a member of the judiciary cannot be a member of the executive. When you're a member of the judiciary, you are there. You know your function, you carry it out. Now, a member of the legislature still cannot be a member of what? The judiciary. Now, the executive, legislature, and judiciary, these are the three organs of government. We said these three serve as what? Check on each other. Now the executive checkmates the activities of the legislature. Then the legislature checkmates the activity of the judiciary. The judiciary goes up again to checkmate the activities of the executive. The same goes down to legislature and judiciary, so that the three of them cannot use their power excessively. Now the main aim of this is to do what? To cut down their excesses. I hope you're getting me. Okay? Then let's go to the next point, relationship between the separation of power and checks and balances. The relationship between the separation of power and what? Checks and balances. 1. Checks and balances enhances the principle of what? Separation of power. Because there will always be a check on the organs of government. And everybody will mind his or her own what? Business. Now, the principle of checks and balances here in the separation of power helps to do what? To stop dictatorship. Now, the executive cannot be overriding the legislature. The legislature cannot override the judiciary. Now, we said that a dictator is somebody that dictates. Remember, when somebody is given authority or power without checkmating that person can do what? Abuse his or her power. So, the principle of checks and balances helps to do what? To stop or reduce what? Dictatorship in separation of power. Then this system also helps to do what? To make government be efficient. Now, let's go to the next point, which is separation of power in the presidential system of government. Now, what is presidential system of government? This is a system of government where power is only centered on one person known as the executive what? President. Now, Nigeria practiced this system in 1983 when Shehu Shagari was the executive president of Nigeria. So we are going to see the separation of power in the presidential system of government. But before I forge ahead, I think I'm going to write the definition of checks and balances on the board too. Okay, so we said that the principle of checks and balances states that the three organs of government should serve as check over one another to avoid the excess use of power to the detriment of the citizens and the state. Now we're going to consider the separation of power in the presidential system of government. System of government. One is the executive arm of government. Executive Now, under this executive arm of government, they cannot participate in the legislative process, and they do not have the right to dissolve the legislation. I don't have to explain that. Then the next one is the president. The president appoints a chief judge, but the same chief judge sits over him if the president is in his office. Let me go back again. Now I said the president under separation of power in the presidential system of government. Now the president appoints the chief judge, but that same chief judge will sit over him if the president is in his function, in his what? Office. Then we talk about individual responsibility. Now there is nothing like collective responsibility in the presidential system of government. Now under this individual responsibility, the individuals are what? Are individually responsible. That the cabinet members are individually what? Responsible to the president. Then we have impeachment. Now the House of Reps may decide to impeach the president in the presence of the Senate. This is a check on the powers of what? The president. Now let us see separation of power in the parliamentary system of government. Now parliamentary system of government is the system of government where powers are shared between two people, among two people. Now the other person is called the president, and then the other person is called what? The prime minister. But in the presidential, I said power is only centered on one person, which is what? The executive president. But here, power is what? Is centered on two people. Are you getting me? Now let us see separation of power in the parliamentary system of government. One, no clear or pronounced what? Functions. Functions are fused here. Now what do I mean by fused? Should I say functions are joined? Something. Unlike in the presidential system where you see what? Individual responsibility. Such is not the case in a parliamentary system of government. Because a member of the executive house can also be a member of the legislature under the parliamentary system. So that's why we said that responsibilities are what? Are fused. Then, vote of no confidence. Now the parliament can pass a vote of no confidence, and the entire cabinet is what? Removed. So there is nothing like impeachment in the parliamentary system of government. And there is nothing like vote of no confidence in the presidential system. Now you make use of impeachment in the presidential system, and you make use of what? Vote of no confidence in a parliamentary system of government. Then the next one, the Lord Chancellor in Britain is a member of the three organs of government. The Lord Chancellor in Britain is a member of the what? Three organs of government. But such cannot happen in where? In a presidential system of government. A member of the executive cannot be a member of the judiciary under the presidential. But in the parliamentary, it is what's possible. Now, I should say that the vice chancellor here falls under the president or presidential office. But at the same time, he is what? A member of the three organs of what? Government. Now, because of our time, I'm actually supposed to take another topic under this, which is the representative government. But because of time, I would like to stop here. Then in our next class, we continue with a representative government. Now, I want you to read ahead of me so that by next week, as I'm teaching, you'll also be flowing as well. You read a presidential system of government. 2, means of establishing presidential system of government. And then you also read or study the advantages of a representative government. Then, the last but not the least, the disadvantages of a representative government. Thank you for listening. Au revoir.